Welcome to the podcast that puts a finger on the pulse of revenue and technology. On this show, you'll hear from industry experts, executives, and investors on the art of transforming B2B businesses into scale-up insurgents. This is Revenue Uncoded.
Picture of probably something from Caddyshack that represents Xander.
There you go.
Judge Smalls. Well, we're waiting.
All right. Well, all right, so
I like it.
all right, let's do the intro here. Well, here we are. It's Friday afternoon on another episode of Revenue Uncoded. Coded. And today's topic is customer-centricity, invoicing, and the evolution,
Billing.
and how things have gone, right, in and around billing. And we were talking a little bit before we started turning on the microphone here about
Before we jump in, today's guests,
oh my Lord,
Barbara Lancaster,
Xander
Xander
from Canada.
Krause, who during the shoot of this, we didn't have a video of it. So we'll have to see what happens when we get the
We'll
other side of the
superimpose
recording.
Xander.
So he may be turned into something else. So both Xander and Barbara are long tenured people in the industry, billing centric, telecom, standards, practices, etc.
Ex-director of billing, Mr. Krause.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So they're going to join us today, and we kind of weigh in and discuss our thoughts on where is customer-centric billing going? How do you engage with your customers? And when we say customer, is that in a B2B world where another B is your customer, or a B2C relationship where it's the end customer that you've sold to? Because both of those equations become important when you start talking how you perform your billing. And so let's have some fun and dig right into that, because billing's billing.
Billing is money.
That's right.
All right, so Xander, we were talking a little bit before here about some futuristic stuff. We'll come back to that, right? So maybe just the evolution. I was thinking a little bit. Remember that invoice rendering tool that we had?
Transform.
That I think is actually still.
Transform,
Yeah, I think it's still actually in production out there for customers. But you know, and the challenge is that the paper invoice was not capable of making a lot of changes without a lot of expensive software designs. And the vendor of the billing system would say that'll be $100,000 for you to make this change to your invoice. Now that, I'm dating myself, right? But that's what it used to be. And so then the next evolution has been, more portal centric and more interaction where people can kind of drill down and so next we're thinking about is just what's kind of evolved, particularly over the last 10 years. And we've been fortunate enough to be exposed to some B2C instances. And then, Brian works with a customer for a long time, where he provides tailored custom views, customer-centric views, in a commercial.
Mediation, the traffic analytics, the feeds in there. We don't do any of the billing, but we support all of the billing with that processing and the data. So that's been a fun ride.
Yeah, great. So maybe we just I'll just open it up and just when we talk about customer-centric, let's stay there for a little bit. Isn't everything that we do customer-centric? Isn't everything that we create, customer-centric? Or is that a misnomer?
That's probably a little misnomer if you're focusing in on what we do here at our company, because we do a lot of things to tailor for efficiency and cost reduction, which the customer benefits from, but so do we. So, we have to be nimble, quick, and efficient. Not necessarily just for the customer, but also for us as a supplier.
What do you think?
Well, and I agree. We've said for years, right? Customer is king, because after all, if we don't have happy customers, we don't have a business. Knowing at a more detailed level, what does that mean? And customers are not a homogeneous thing. There are hundreds of thousands of customers, and we all have our own unique little quirks and priorities, right? So what is customer centric? is really a great question. And as you're saying, Brian, if something is what the customer is indicating they would really like to see, and is something that is a very questionable cost benefit to building and maintaining, then what do you do? So it's not as simple as saying, if it's important to the customer, we'll just do it.
You build them a report and it sits out in the report, stack forever.
But so Xander's had a lot of experience with that B2B on the billing and the settlements and the whole evolution of that process. What are your thoughts on that, Z?
Well, just to add on to what Barbara was saying, it's kind of the return on investment. Instead of being customer focused, you kind of have to put your consultant hat on and say, yeah, I understand what you're trying to achieve, but the juice is just not worth the squeeze. It just doesn't make sense. The return on investment's not there. And working with settlements and carriers, you really don't. You don't have to put the sham wow when you're dealing with B2B. Basically, on the settlement side, it's more a revenue assurance play from a telecom perspective, that we just want to make sure that we can follow the data elements from left to right and make sure that we don't drop any revenue on the floor as it goes, as the data is transformed. So from a customer perspective, I look at it, personally, the way I look at it is, there's two types of customers from when it's B2C. There's the ones that want to support themselves and the ones that want to be catered and handheld. What I hate is when I get into a situation where I call in, I want service, and I get in the voicemail, the IVR hell. And it's just, it just frustrates me. That's when I want to say, give me access.
Real person, please.
Either a real person or give me the ability to self-serve.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we've done a lot of work and improvement in doing self-care, whether it's, via an app that we created for our customers, or the ability to lead them to the customer website to then, traverse onto a self-care portal, which is really us behind the scenes. But you get double benefit from that. You get, number one, the customer spends a lot of money on their website, their web presence, and it makes the customer go in there so you can communicate to the customer, this is what I have, this is, promotions that we're doing, and so on and so forth. But then it also gives them the ease to do self-care. And that's, I look at what I would like.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Don't you think it's moving that way, though, when we think about the evolution of the technology and how that information is exchanged between everybody? Totally. Absolutely. What you're talking about there, Z, the whole self-care piece. Because how many times have you heard somebody that might have been my wife in the background screaming, representative, and then she gets really mad and hangs up because that voice recognition technology is not necessarily always a smooth experience for the customer, which impacts you as a service provider and the service to your customers. But rounding that back to our first kind of set of questions of where technology is going in the future for billing. Well, we know for a fact self-care is a much more economical way to provide rich services for the customer and tailor it to the customer. So now you've got an idea of going, well, these people fit in, they have these services, these activities. This is what they want to do when they come in for customer service. It's not quite like the old day where you called into the call center and the trouble ticket and all this. You can do this right on your phone. So those devices now become your portal engine, your customer ticketing mechanism, as well as your pay kiosk.
And it's interactive, right?
Yeah.
And so you were talking about this before, is that, you using your hands, it's interactive. So it's a more, real, tangible experience, right? As opposed to a robot or whatever. But anyway.
Absolutely. And again, back to customer experience at what point in their journey, right? Customer experience when they're exploring for, maybe they're looking for a new plan, maybe they're looking for a new handset, maybe they're looking for an entirely new supplier.
Mm-hmm.
And so how easy is it for them to do their research? How easy is it for you to pop up and entice them with some interesting ideas to your website? As you were saying, Xander, your website's a big investment to keep it current, keep it interesting, keep it interactive. So, right at the beginning of the customer journey, that's certainly customer experience. Once they're your customer and they've settled into the package of services that work well for them and everything's great, now when are they going to want to interact with you? Well, sure, when they've got a problem or when they've got some questions or something. They're just interested to see what's new and exciting. So all the way along the piece, it's about what can we do to make all of our data accessible to authorized people at every step of the way. And it kind of takes us back to one of our previous discussions about data centricity available on platforms today. We can do so much more because we have clean, accurate, consolidated information.
And the other part I'm just thinking about is that it's a customer interaction opportunity. And sometimes there's going to be nasty, I'm upset, this is wrong, please change it, right? Or I'm curious, what can I do? And you've got an opportunity. I call them impromptu opportunities. And so customer centricity is the invoice or the monetization process provides both, right? The avenue for, hey, I'm upset, or impromptu additional incremental revenue. And do your billing systems, are they ready to accept that impromptu action on the part of the customer?
Let me extend on that thought right there to the point of the 400,000-pound gorilla in the room, which is now AI technologies leveraging your data and those process flows now that can be tuned more easily to provide experiences for different customers, as well as your own service desk technicians, whoever. That eliminates. It has some pluses and some minuses for sure. Just like anything, like a bad IVR or a bad AI experience or a bad live person customer experience. All of them can have their ups and downs. But that ability now with all these these phones and data capture devices we have, one of the reasons our data is so much more clean than what it used to be is because everybody carries around data entry processors. And they're all putting information in where, the paper form thing, only certain really irritating places still make you fill out those paper forms. And you know who you are. But the rest of it, or they have a really dreadful web experience. So they need to update. The 80s called and want their bad forms back. But from those perspectives, the level of sophistication that we're already starting to see just in our city, you can order at the kiosk at the grocery store through an AI attendant. We already have live chats that are all AI bots, things like that. So I see that as an area where customer-centric interaction and billing, they'll be very tightly coupled from that perspective. The upsell, the troubleshooting, and the ability to reach out and communicate, both from a two-way direction. So discuss. What do you think?
Well said. Man, I don't know if I can add anything on top of that. That's pretty sharp. I like that. How about you guys?
Yeah. Some of the AI technology that's out there is, follow your kids. My kids say, "Hey, Dad, have you ever checked out this chat AI?" He tells me, you can write a paper, have it write a paper, and it doesn't plagiarize anybody. And so it is something else.
That is. Man, could you imagine being able to do your reports like that? Because you started early on it, and at the last minute, while you're sitting there and you're talking into your microphone, and then your paper's out. I think these kids are getting it too easy. We should give them bad AI.
Bad AI. Well, I think there's a lot of bad AI out there, all right, but we're getting better.
All right, so let me twist another one. This is supposed to be our revenue, right? Revenue Uncoded. So if I'm a big business to business company, right? Where's the money?
It's efficiencies, right, on a lot of these things. If it's B2B, if you're providing services or you're a supplier or what have you, what makes those interactions faster, cheaper to deliver on? How does it flow through both sides so it's kind of a win? Because if you've got a bad supplier, what do you do in your business? Well, you look for another supplier.
I'm there. And then the other big thing that I've seen over the years evolve is the visibility, right? I want to continually drill down into my data. I've got a $25,000 invoice that comes back for me, and I want to kind of look into it, right? I want to allocate X% to this office and to this office or to that office.
Data entry,
and data entry. I want to be able to drill down into it. I want to look at it. That to me is just one of the big evolutions, and providing that visibility to that customer, I think is paramount. Right?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, that's a really good example, and especially where there's a kind of a normal allocation of costs across various departments and geographies and whatnot. That's easy to set up in any good invoicing system, but the one-offs, as you've just described, Bill, right? That there's a special project or something, or some department has consumed a significantly different proportion of resources than usual, and I want to be able to go in and move some more money over there. So they may be getting whatever 20% of the bill now, but for this month, I want to move these charges for these services over to that other group too.
Yeah, and in the B2B world, you also have to be cognizant of that. Usually they're not very fast to change their current mode of operation. So they may still have some legacy doc procedures and intake procedures and things like that, because I know of several that do that have, it's almost a paper process. Then the paper goes in and gets keyed in by somebody else. So they're not even using a barcode when they, it wouldn't take them that long to do it, but it just doesn't move that way. So when you talk about your revenues, well, you're definitely going to be impacted on those pieces. This is more of a efficiency and technology solution to increase your revenue and your interactions with your customers from a B2B perspective. So I would see that as another place where the technology, if you've got a lot of manual processes in there, you should seriously take a look at it.
Yes.
And I think also economies of scale. If you want to, if you have an application that will, invoice, correlate your data, there's economies of scale that you can use across different market niches, whether it's, prepaid or subscription based or, your traditional billing. I mean, it's the economies of scale that you could go into a different market niche that you're in, which is a
two-sided coin. Which is a two-sided coin, Xander. I'm thinking of how many times over the years have you come to me and we're talking about, hey, this customer, they want us to kind of do X, Y, and Z, and they want us to create this thing over here, but inevitably, I really question the logic of going down this path, because you're dealing with something that's only going to have value to a micro fraction of a customer. I don't know how many times over the years you like, we'll do it the way they want, but is there real value in going down and creating and spitting out from the system what they really want?
So a 3,000-year ROI is not necessarily valuable.
Well, the thing with this, our software solution or a lot of different software solutions, I guess, is you got to be able, number one, you got to have good people. You can't do anything without the people. Mm-hmm. Then you have the box that you're in. Now, can that box quickly develop and then fail fast, basically, so that you can, is this worth the effort? Is the ROI there? Being able to fail fast is critical when you're going into an unknown market niche, and a lot of these, a lot of executives, are risk adverse. They don't want to take a risk because of the time, the money that is spent. With this application, we can kind of, and the way we approach, we can, ease that fare and, make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. We can de-risk that significantly now, right? Because as you say, you can just try it, and it's maybe a week's worth of work.
We got some topics here: personalized billing experience, transparent billing, customer feedback into billing process. Which of those kind of?
There's a couple of things that occur to me in the evolution of customer invoices over the years. The flexibility and the interactivity that you mentioned, Bill, I think that's what's made a huge difference. So we're not looking at paper bills anymore. With any luck, we're not even looking at PDF images on our screen when we log in to check our accounts. And we have the ability to be able to hide or move out of the way information that's not important to us, to me. It might be important to my neighbor, but it's not important to me. And I'm thinking about maybe the details of overseas calling. So it doesn't matter to me, but might matter to my neighbor. So the ability to highlight overseas calling and have that be top line when I log in, and I always see that first. That's something now that we can set up for our customers very quickly. And in fact, they can set it up for themselves. And if that stops being their priority, they can change that. So
that's a personalized billing experience.
And it needs to be so easy and smooth that anyone can do it, because then you've hit a home run. Mm-hmm. And the software now lets you do that. I think the ability, because of the data being clean and the structures that are used, the technology, the way you organize workflows, processes, all of these things are much more engageable as in items that you can group together to give you that tailored experience, both visually and from a service level deliverable to your customers. So it's easier to put that together without having to go and say, I've got all the elements. Let me just let them put together the Rubik's Cube they want for their view. Mm-hmm. And this person can do it for their view, and off you go. And that was, a while ago, there was no way you could do that with the current infrastructure and the systems, the way they're architected and delivered and information. Let's talk about data timing in the world of billing, especially when you're going to let your customers engage directly with their experience and help set it up. And what I mean by timing of the data is, if I go in and I buy something, for example, and set up a new service, how long does it take for it to be activated? How long do I get feedback that it's working? And then if it's something that engages with another B2B partner, you're cross-selling, for example, When do you get to recognize that transaction?
Well, wouldn't that in that instance, almost every B2C has to be almost instantaneous.
You would think
it have to be real time.
Okay.
And on the B2B side, however, there's
That's
a little more
different
heavy.
story.
There's a little more heavy lifting involved. There's a lot more people involved. There's a lot more steps involved.
And what I was getting to on the billing side is that if your end bill for a particular service that you're providing, whether it's a customer or a B2B experience or what have you, requires certain feeds of information, the transaction logs, the events, the actions, all the things that took place there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't all necessarily show up on the day you want to run your billing.
That is correct.
That's in the traditional model. Then you have the one that says, well, we do everything real time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you sign this up and you do that, until you get to the trading partner that doesn't do it that way.
Mm.
So if you're tailoring those processes, what sort of things have we seen, or if anybody can talk about that, of how to minimize that impact of that with your technologies and your solutions? How do you handle we're 93% of the way there to go do billing, but our customer wants to see it right now, but we're missing 5 things.
Well, I mean, when I think on the B2B side, you know, we've done a lot of, we're not ready for billing, but here's your pro forma view so that you can see where things are at. Well, they will be at, you know, with some reasonable, you know, tolerance level. You know, we've done that for
Years.
years.
For years.
I go back to the B2C, right? The B2Cs are going to want it now. They're going to want
absolutely.
all of that whole sequence, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's part of designing a good customer experience is I want all of this to happen now. But on the overlap side, that's a good question, Brian.
Well, you take the rating and basically out to the network, and that's basically as real time as you can get. As it's sitting there on the network and rating, and it's basically those records are created real time, and then you can query them and correlate them in real time, basically.
Yeah. So a more edge rating centric system, network, or environment, transaction delivery, service, whatever it is, streaming, multimedia, telecommunications, calls, data, whatever, that those ability to generate those slices of actions and aggregate them quickly for your billing. That's kind of the future that provides that instantaneous or almost near real time activity logs or bills or invoices to the consumer side of that equation. If they really want, that ties in so well to things like, delivering marketing messages and things real time, focused market areas where you want, everybody's at the football game or something for something in a local market. Mm-hmm. Well, you can tie that back. That's that instantaneous use of data beyond just traditional billing model, but it ties into the same thing. How do I monetize that? That I want to have something that's going to generate me some revenue. I may have the fastest, coolest network in the world, but if you're not billing anything else for it, where you get?
Which reminds me, Barb, when we were working with some customers about the advantages of 5G, and some of the smaller guys, right, were not the bigger guys, but more the regional players were really weighing the advantages of deploying a 5G cost and the costs associated with it. And they had to look at it hard and long, and they were like, I'm certainly better and faster, right? But, where's the real money? Can I charge a lot more for that? And inevitably what we heard was, well, the data about the sessions was intrinsically more valuable than the incremental dollars on the bill.
Right.
So that was a few years ago, right? And now everybody's talking about 6G, but 5G adoption, and they actually got to the point where they said, we know we're going to need a lot of one-offs or different invoicing solutions than we currently have today. And they all said those, the cost to deploy of those solutions on a commercial scale basis, we're not really sure if it makes economic sense, right? So aside from the value of the data that we sell from 5G sessions, we still have to justify this cost of that network. And so they actually considered working on a shared billing service basis against non-competitive other regional operators, where they said, hey, let's get together and let's share the cost on a fractional basis, timeshare, for what we need with the next evolution of 5G and where the market was going. Interesting,
Yeah.
eh?
Very interesting. And again, when we look at the whole 5G environment, we know that a lot of the value of 5G is in the reduced cost of operation of a 5G network compared to a 4G network, even when you take into account the extreme difference in densification. You need a lot more 5G sites, but they're low power, far less energy use. Things like that. So the equation for where do I make my money in 5G is, as you said, Bill, really a complex one. And a lot of the revenue from new services are partner-oriented ones, which takes us all the way back to how quickly and efficiently can you keep track of your partner's contributions to that service? How do you revenue share or revenue settle? And how quickly can you do that? And how many of those revenue share things need to happen on a near real-time basis, and how many things can be settled once a week or, every 2 weeks or once a month, once a quarter? What's the deal? And so being able to link the contract terms with your partners to what your systems need to be able to support becomes really important.
Yeah, cool. And I know this is about customer-centric stuff, and I didn't mean to go too far down the 5G section, but I was just really fascinated about, was the ROI really there? And we know that we've got limitations on the monetization side to support where the market is going. And they basically came to the conclusion that, well, let's kind of do a POC on a shared basis instead of making a wholehearted jump into, yet another billing system or, infestation they're in. So anyway.
And that's something that cloud technology enables, right? In just even 10 years ago, a cooperative group like that would have to decide where the physical equipment's going to be installed and who's responsible for it. Well, now they don't have to worry about that.
Nope.
Yeah, we didn't really even get into the whole piece of the slicing of 5G sharing. We kind of did, but like from lighting up buildings and things like that and making the 5G becomes the backbone provider for that facility, area, locale, whatever the physical nature is of that. And that allows a shared tenant kind of model for charging, and somebody can upcharge that, sell it back. You can be the back end provider. Once again, you need all those data points. You need to be able to accurately slice and dice them, apply those charges back and forth. It needs to be done quickly so that everybody has visibility into their cost and revenue model with that. And vice versa. So I don't see that part really going away, but that model of how much additional are we making off of this because we're 5G, that seems to have some questions in the market area of how to do that. Or you just wait till you get some sort of funding from somewhere.
It's all got to be paid for somehow, Brian.
Hey.
So why don't we talk about the future? All right, let's talk about be silly. All right, just kind of kick it around. I was talking about how I love that interaction with my footprint or my thumbprint.
I want to see you do the footprint one. That would be hysterical.
The footprint would be fun.
I don't think it's going to take off. I just don't think it will.
The thumbprint, but
Mr. Big Toe.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But interaction, so we're talking about future of customer-centric billing and its impact on business growth. So where are we going to go with this? I mean, we've talked about AI as an element, right? Will there be an interactive monetization engine in the future that's highly personalized to me, whether I'm on a B2C level or on a B2B level?
I think it would get there. I really do, because at the end of the day, if it's that personalized, you've got that level of control over those data elements that take place that describe that experience. So if you can organize it to that level across the ecosphere of service delivery, billing, activities, to have a good custom experience, whether you're dealing with your trading partner or the 500 people in your neighborhood. That would be an amazing goal. And then when you start talking about, well, how would we do additional financial settlements? Let's get our money a little faster, offer a little discount. Well, now you start getting to that model of what we kind of become a bank on some of these items. Well, what about new digital currency, Bitcoins and Ethereum and things like that? Do you want to be able to take that right now? There's a lot of people that would prefer to be able to do that. They don't want to use traditional monetary methods to do that.
Based on fraud, security, et cetera. But I'm thinking about Amazon, right? With Alexa. So going on to on a B2C application or on a B2B situation, and just establishing a secure interface with the portal, and say, well, this is what I want. Tell me this. What other options do you have? Voice interactive.
It's just a data entry portal.
And that's another data entry.
Yeah, it's just a different way to do it. Alexa today, is voice to text, voice to action, all those neat things. And the whole goal of that is to meet that. What's the killer apps that will be finally engaged with that Siri or Alexa, these AI people or entities, whatever you want to call them, that provide you that service that you never had before. It's like your own personal concierge service that takes care of billing and orders stuff for you, puts in there. It's not there yet, but it's getting there. Certainly better than what it was before.
It's a really interesting discussion, right? Amazon is suggesting that they'll lose $10 billion on Alexa this year.
Woo.
And they don't like that very much, right? So they knew it was an investment and whatnot. But again, where's the revenue? So she does some limited things like you can order anything from Amazon by asking Alexa. So that's one way. My Alexa is lighting up every time I say her name.
A lot of stuff's coming to your house and you didn't even know.
A lot of stuff, right? And my 2-year-old granddaughter knows now how to talk to Alexa. So wait until that starts coming to their front door. But they haven't been able to crack yet what those other revenue opportunities are. And some of them, to me, come right back to customer centricity. So at some point, Amazon knows that I'm a fan of Bob Dylan. So I expect that Alexa will show me a notification saying Bob Dylan tickets are available. Do you want some? I expect that more kind of proactivity to start to happen soon. And Amazon already has that really pervasive partnering of small companies, big companies, like they act as the sales front for so many things. So I think jumping in and getting ahead of that, which they haven't done yet so far. So I'm not sure why, especially since they're looking for new revenue opportunities like that. So I'm waiting.
That's pretty cool. I did not know about the Alexa loss.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're right. It is a loss leader, but that's true.
We're laying a lot of people off in that division.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they're still working hard to get to that next level. For that killer app, the thing that's going to take it off. And I think that customer-centric piece of that. I mean, that's what the whole thing does to begin with. Winds up being that. So that next level of AI.
So best practices for implementing customer-centric billing. That's a great example with Alexa, right? It's a great B2C example. I'm sure they were planned on a lot of impromptu purchases and, add this and do that or whatever. And maybe it just hasn't taken off, whatever. But how would somebody like Amazon improve that customer-centric billing strategy? What are the best practices? No, it's a little unfair for this circle, right? We're more heavy tech, we're telecom, we're B2C, B2B, complex. But how do you drive a better customer? How do you engage the customers to have a better? What are the best practices for customer-centric billing?
Via a AI bot?
Well, we talked about AI bots, right? But how do you solicit input? The old days you had a research group, right? Or a panel,
I see what you're
right?
saying as far as
What are the best practices to incorporate customer-centric monetization?
If your customer hates it, don't do it.
Right. That's a good one. The other one is that, the Steve Jobs thing, that customers don't know what they want until somebody shows it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, oh yeah, gosh, that little iPod thing, that's a cool idea. Yeah, I do want one.
Mm-hmm.
But so relying only on focus groups and whatnot only get you incremental improvements on things we already know, because that's what humans are really good at, improving what we know. But we're not great at blue sky, blank sheets of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So it does take somebody like a Steve Jobs who says, you know what? I think I know what you want, and pushes it.
Absolutely.
How about an interactive contract? How many times have we signed up for a 12-month, $160, phone bill, cable, blah blah blah, and then at the at the 12th month or the 11th month, I should say, or 13th month, you now get a bill for $200. Nothing more is frustrating working with whether it's a cable company, wireless phone company, what have you, when the contract expires and they just up the rate. Why can't I go back to my contract on my app, maybe have some AI behind it, and I say, I want these services and I want to pay X.
Yep.
And the AI says, yeah, that's doable. I'll accept that. Then that contract goes on and it lasts for the contract terms. But the ability for me to go in and have an interactive contract, because I hate going into those wireless phone stores. I just dread it because they're always trying to sell me a new phone, even though my phone works fine. But and then
Princess line phone.
And then another thing is, I've had the same phone forever and ever and ever. I paid that phone off. Why am I still leveraging that phone? The extra payment, that extra charge of I bought the phone for $500 and it cost the carrier $1,200, so I'm subsidizing that. But after that subsidized over, that contract should be automatically downgraded, and I should get a better price. And with all the data points that we have, we should be able to. That's a revenue assurance thing, not only from the carrier's perspective, but from our customer's perspective. Yep. We're looking out for our customers. I mean, what a message that a carrier could say is, hey, we're looking out for you. If your phone contract is, and you subsidized your phone and it's over, we're automatically going to reduce your rate. I just think that message would resonate to that marketplace, and that would be a market upsetter. Yep. I'd turn the market upside down if somebody did that. Yeah,
which I think is a great idea.
Yes, definitely. They companies spend so much money to attract new customers, and they forget about the customers they have.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. And
good answer.
Good answer. That's one of the things that they little loyalty programs can help. Working with companies that are already your customers and help them get more business. Some sandwich shop might be customer of yours, kind of like what you said, Barb, with Amazon, they're kind of the storefront. Well, why can't a local carrier be a storefront for all their customers?
Great idea.
To sell their goods. It's just ways to you got that customer base, and that's an asset. How can you use that customer base to its fullest extent? And that's the key.
Well, now you also need to consider the fact that the customer bases are changing somewhat in how they interact with the rest of the people. So think of things like the COVID lockdown we had, where you've got people aren't really talking to each other in public. The exchange of information across your media devices, et cetera, and things becomes a major way to engage with both your service provider and from a social position and social networking. So you've got a preponderance now of new customer base coming in that is very centric to their technology and how they interact with that. So if you're not in a position to have that new best practice in place to be able to work with, let's say, unstructured data because you're just minding text messages or Twitter feeds or whatever the case may be, where your name comes up, you're missing the power curve by a mile, in my assessment, because I've seen my daughter's thumbs go so fast. I can't, it's a blur. And then apparently War and Peace was just written. I can't do that. So, but it's so important that everyone is able to have those, from your strategic plan, as you talk about developing that customer-centric billing strategy going forward. That's a customer engagement to a customer billing strategy, right? Both B2B and B2C. Because you have the same thing on the B2B side. We touched on that piece of people that are or partners that may not be at the sharp end of the stick from a technology standpoint on how they do some of their business practices. Doesn't mean you have to do that. And if you engage with at the customer level, you certainly need to be able to provide that better experience, at least in my assessment.
Yep, I agree.
So,
I'm still thinking about a personalized experience and where things are going, and the delineation between consumer and business. And I think it's easier on the consumer side to kind of visualize the future. I'm thinking more about or on the business side. And we talked about, there are so many different pieces that have to be involved, and you're only as good as your weakest link, right, is what you talked about.
Yep.
And so, if you've got a 6-link chain to create an invoice or provide settlement at the end of the month, do you just have to give in to the weakest link, or do you do workarounds? Do you create? Do you help them? Do you augment them? Do you facilitate, a better, faster, or kind of improving the weakest link? Right?
Isn't that back to your point about best practices? Because you're going to evaluate what is the impact of the weakest link in your billing and supply chain and delivery methods. Is it something you can not have to worry about too much, or they have a very unique offering that you can't get anywhere else? So you're kind of stuck with the fact that you have to chisel it on sandstone and send it out each time, and it doesn't go by mail; it goes by Pony Express. That's just the way this is going to work, and you need to accept that. Versus the other one is looking around. How do you make this entire process, left to right again, from the aggregation of the events and the data to the billing experience to the user's experience to improving your ROI and revenue? Each one of those steps needs to be evaluated and should be part of your plan and your best practices. And that those best practices for your longer serving customers or service delivery people, the incumbents, and whether it's telecom, mobile, whatever the case may be, you have to think about that because those markets are changing dramatically in the last 5 years. And then when you look at the mobile side of it, it's landlines. 7 people have them, in my neighborhood, and for the most part, everybody I know that has disconnected it, or they've gone to a voice over IP model. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else got thoughts on that?
But that, coming back to again, looking at what else could we do on a more proactive basis? Because I think you're really onto something there, Xander. And we now can see in pretty much real time events and trends. And so it shouldn't be very difficult for our friends in marketing to start looking at that data with a more proactive lens and saying, well, at this rate of spend on these kinds of events, this customer and customer by customer may be interested in this kind of an offering. And I don't see that happening a lot yet. So I think they could do a lot more because they have so much data. And maybe that's part of the problem, that they don't even know what they've got.
Well, that goes back to that discussion we had on another show regarding the more usable views of these large chunks of information and data. Because all those different billing elements, or we'll just call them, losing the thought process. Each one of your business departments, as they work with that data, from finance to operations to support to billing to marketing to sales, all of them need views of that data. And setting that up and understanding where that data came from and what it could be worth to you in a quick and efficient delivery method so people can make actionable decisions quickly. To me, that's one of the huge areas that needs to be improved with a lot of the people that we work with. And what we do every day, it's the same thing. We know that data is flying out there. How do you get your hands on dip that bucket into the fire hose of data, pull out the good stuff, and be able to deliver it to people so that they can make actionable decisions that are well-founded in data and analytics on that.
Well,
you got to be able to do that.
Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about at all here that's very kind of connected is the CRM, right? The customer relationship management system. And I think about conversations we had 20 years ago that says the amount of information that you have within a billing system can be mined, right? And to provide an inordinate level of insights and details, without an extensive investment in a CRM system. Now, CRM, means a lot of different things. That's a conversation in and of itself, right? Right. What constitutes a customer relationship management system? But all of the, I kind of look at that CRM as the lipstick, right? Where you're taking all of this great information and data from the billing system, right? And you're bringing it up, surfacing it, and putting it out there to the customer, right? So that's one level of deployment of CRM. But there's so much discussion in around CRM, because in the telco side, you'll have, who's really the boss, right? You'll have, is it the CRM? Is it the BSS? Or is it the network inventory management system?
Data and pipe is king.
Data and pipe is king. But maybe just a little bit about CRM, right? And how the interaction between billing systems and monetization systems, right? Because a lot of the things we've touched on are CRM centric.
Yeah. And a good CRM delivers that, what we were just talking about, actionable information when you need it, where you need it, at the customer level.
And also you gotta be worried about who's the master, who's the slave, right?
Correct.
Who's gonna be the master of the data? years of experience, I've seen so many CRMs try to do the B2C and fail. The CRM is a great tool when it comes to your traditional, B2B scenario where you have a lead and you take the lead and you have so many touches and then it converts to a customer. I've seen that succeed, but what's changed in today's environment is that we have the REST APIs and so on and so forth. So if you're looking for a CRM, make sure they have good published APIs that
Right.
and the mothership has good published APIs, so that you could quickly adapt and manipulate that data, so that you will have a good opportunity for the master is the master and the slave is the slave as it relates to the data.
Yeah, really good points.
I mean, the CRM thing could be an episode in and of itself on the cohabitation with billing, but
It sure can.
we're dealing with some situations right now where the CRM is just saying, I'm nothing more than the mirror. I'm collecting information that's coming up from either the billing system, and this is a telco deployment. So either the workforce management system or the network, and all I am is I'm just the booth babe. Sorry for lack of a better analogy, but they're the lipstick, right? That says, well, here's what's going on inside. So a lot of them don't necessarily have that same actionable component.
Well, that goes to how do you manage that data when you get it in your CRM?
Mm-hmm.
Does somebody else process it for you so it looks good when you get it? Or do you have an engine that can take all those different disparate pieces of information related to what you're trying to look at and present it in a logical, actionable way, taking into account timing, taking into account revenue, costs, or maintenance? What depends on whatever happens. How many errors did we have today that we had to roll trucks for, or things like that?
On the B2C side, I don't think there's any argument, at least this is my opinion, I apologize, but the customer interaction, friendliness and working with a customer experience side, typically going to be a lot better on the CRM side than on the billing system side.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Now, that's not universally true.
Let's
throw that open for debate. Go for it.
I don't agree with you. I mean,
all right, hit me.
Once you capture the customer, if you got, a great self-serve, then I think, basically, if you have a great self-serve, CRM's out of it. You could be a customer for life, and that's what everybody wants, is a customer for life, a really sticky customer. And if you're making your customer happy, I don't want to have to call anybody. I want to be able to just, have my service, pay for my service, and be left alone.
Yep. That is a brilliant point, Xander. Inertia is the company's friend. So if you just let things roll and the customer doesn't have any reason to stop and say, hey, why am I giving these people money anyway? They will just roll on and on and on.
So you're saying I should have canceled my Blockbuster membership and stopped paying for it? Is that bad inertia on my part? All right.
Well, do you know that? That for some of the large incumbent carriers, they still have thousands of customers who are paying long distance charges.
Yeah. Measured service scenarios.
Crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of gets down to what Xander was talking about, better customer experience, meaning are you going to continue to stick it to them because they haven't said anything? Inevitably they will, right? But,
they might not say anything, but they'll just leave.
They'll leave, right? They'll leave, right?
At some point they will, but I really agree with you, Xander, that for the most part, people just want to get on with their lives. And unless they're in kind of our industry, they don't wake up in the morning and say, gee, I wonder if I could get a better deal with another phone company. They just don't do it, right? Unless they're prompted by something. And usually that prompt is an unhappy experience.
Or an increase in the bill.
Yeah.
You know,
Both of those are unhappy.
When they start going, hey, what?
It's a surprise.
It went up $30 this month. What the heck?
And our messaging is because we need to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we have.
Well, I don't need to pay it.
Right. And that's when they start talking to their friends. And that's when they start searching on the internet. And that's when they start downloading offers from other companies. Yeah. And if you're on top of your CRM game, you will see that activity.
Yeah. We used to have, we used to do a lot of predictive churn. Remember, Xander?
Yeah. Yes.
Where we would say, we would cross-reference customer complaints.
How many times they called in and dropped packets in their internet.
So we would marry CRM data with trouble ticket data with network data, put it all together, and say you may want to reach out and talk to these guys.
Well, that's that whole conversation there, right? About being proactive, engage with your customers. You want to keep them.
They are more expensive to gain, and there is sadly a mindset by a lot of organizations that, well, we've got you, and so we're going to milk you for everything you got. So
that is a model to use.
Not a long-term successful model, but yes. Yeah. Anyway.
Hard to say.
I think everybody knows what I'm talking about right there. Edit that out. Yeah. So
we'll have to put that big blotchy thing over your head.
Yeah.
So if we kind of bring around a circle here, and we'll kind of wrap this one up for this episode, developing customer-centric billing strategy. I think we heard, and I'm gonna give you what I kind of heard out of this, and then you guys give me what you heard out of it. I heard that if we're talking that B2C piece, you need to make sure that you're having a experience for that customer that is positive, and it can be a self-care positive experience. That we seem to think that that's where things are moving on that. On the B2B, it was a little tougher to decide how to press that. If there has to be something, a driving reason that it's costing you money to have a relationship with a particular B2B scenario that is inefficient, unproductive, poor revenue return, constantly late, doesn't meet goals, whatever the case may be. Those are a couple of the main things I heard on that. And then the other one is future technology and how you use possibly AI, other monetary engagements to provide that enhanced self-care process so that you as the service provider or the main, the B portion, the business, can provide a great experience and lower your costs because you don't have to be so labor intensive.
No, I think I think you're right on there. That's kind of the way I look at it. That was kind of the point I was trying to get across. So,
yep. And the B2C wants it now. They want it instantaneously.
They want it last year.
And the B2B side is a little more beholden to either the weakest link. And on the B2B side, there usually is multiple entities, right? Whether that's internal, external partners or whatever involved in that equation, right? Yep. So the chain of a B2B invoice, right? How many things are involved with it is really the driver of the timeliness, right? And how quickly you can get it to them and how personalized it is. All those different variables come into play.
It's definitely harder to disconnect, when you're a B2B. The business isn't going to, leave you. It's not as easy, like you said. You take for example, hospitality. With all the settlements that they have with all the different travel agencies, the Travelocities, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The settlement that that happens when you go stay at a hotel, that there's already commissions that are transposed before the customer even gets there, and that is, being able to quickly correlate that data and provide that to, say, a franchisee is huge.
Mm-hmm.
But that franchisee is not going to go anywhere. If you make a mistake just because it's so huge for him to disconnect.
And they usually have a 10-year agreement in place.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely a contract
Mm-hmm.
scenario. It's a very sticky customer. That's like, when I was director of billing, basically the only customers that we did, we were B2B. We didn't want to mess with customers. It was a high receivable business, and we just didn't want it. We got paid really well when it was B2B. We did. I take that back. We did dip our toes in resi, and it was miserable.
Well, there you go. Barbara, what do you got? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of really important aspects of customer centricity, but I vote strongly in favor of Xander, your suggestions about really looking for how do we make customer happiness as strong as we possibly can by looking to the future instead of just looking at what the customer's done with us in the past.
Yeah.
Bushika. All right.
Hey, I think we've got a wrap today.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks everybody, Barbara, Xander, for joining in. Bill, as always, excellent on another episode of
Revenue Uncoded.
Good radio voice. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
see ya.
everybody.